And welcome everyone to an off-season NABC chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Louisville head coach Pat Kelsey. And Pat, I just want to go back a little bit here because you had so many opportunities. You've had great success, and you could have left a number of different times. You chose to stay. You're a very loyal person. Why was this the right fit at the right time?
I mean, Andy, it's Louisville, and I have to correct you. I'm so sorry, but I was corrected probably 8 or 9 times before I finally got it right. Because in this town, it's Louisville. You can't say Louisville.
Oh,
All right.
you're right.
So, sorry,
Louisville,
sorry.
Louisville,
But I've
Louisville,
been corrected
Louisville.
so many times, so I got to
Thank
make sure
you.
I do that to
Thank
you.
you.
But I think the best way to answer it is it's Louisville. It's Louisville basketball, man, and I grew up 90 miles from here, so I was close enough, obviously to feel the magic of the Louisville brand in the 80s. But even if I didn't grow up 90 miles from here and I grew up a million miles from here, it's one of the most powerful brands in college basketball. It's one of the most tradition-rich programs ever. So I think the power and the mystique of this program's past was the biggest thing.
Well, and you're coming in at a pretty crazy time, not just in the sport, but I don't think anyone could have imagined that Louisville would be toward the bottom of the ACC or whatever league it happened to be in. Obviously, they've changed a lot of leagues during its history. And so you've got, you're here and you've got the ability to take it up to where it's been. How did you assess sort of the landscape of the program, of where the ACC is at this point, where there's a lot of movement? There's not sort of just these teams that you can't see at the top of the mountain that you can't, try to match, because we've seen a lot of different teams get up there with Duke, Carolina, and take their turn. How did you assess sort of the overall landscape of the job and the league?
Well, I started my career in the ACC. Skip Prosser, the late great Skip Prosser, hired me. Um, he used to say it was the biggest meteoric rise in coaching history. I went from the freshman basketball coach at famed Elder High School in Cincinnati, and I was selling cars for my dad on the side to the ACC. I thought that was funny. It was the meteoric rise, but so it's where I got my start. And gosh, ACC basketball is traditionally the greatest league in the history of college basketball, in my opinion. And to be a part of this great league again, and there's movement and there's changes, but that's happening everywhere. But you talked about like kind of where the program's been the last couple of years. That's not my focus. My focus is what we're doing from the moment we took the job, I think 102 days ago now, and moving forward. So what's happened in the past is the past, and what happens in the future is what we're all about.
So look, there's a different path in terms of roster management for everybody. Um, and resources are good at Louisville. It's different than where you've been. That's just obvious. But what was your mentality, at least in this first year, maybe going forward? You pick up Chucky Hepburn, who had a great career at Wisconsin, to try to manage sort of high school, international transfer to get this thing going right off the bat.
Yeah, it was a crazy whirlwind of a first several months because, we started at zero, right? We had to build an entire roster. And I give my staff a ton of credit, and I think I have the best basketball coaching staff in the entire country. They make this dude look smart, which is pretty hard to do. So they busted their tail, and I know it's boring interview speak, but we stuck to our process, what we believe in. Obviously, we had to utilize the portal heavily, and getting the job kind of, in the spring and starting from zero. And we wanted to put together a team that can compete from day one. So, we have a process that we go about and how we identify guys in the portal that we want to recruit. Um, Traditional recruiting, grassroots recruiting, underclass recruiting, high school recruiting, obviously, are relationships built over a long, long time. And that's always going to be at the center and the heart and soul of our recruiting efforts. In the portal, it's kind of recruiting on steroids. What usually is a 2-year process sometimes becomes a 2-week process. So you can't skip steps. You have to make sure you're doing your due diligence and making your calls. But at the same time, 30, 40 other schools are trying to recruit the same person. So all these things are going on at the same time where you're building a relationship, selling your program, and at the end, at the same time, checking all the box to make sure that the players you're bringing in, that you're recruiting, are great fits.
I don't want to dwell on the past, so I won't. But there obviously, there was some apathy. I think that has changed dramatically just with your hire because of your passion and your energy. If I'm a Louisville fan, what am I going to see on day one when I get to the Yum Center on the floor at both ends?
Yeah, I that's a great question. And I was asked questions similar to that at my press conference. And what's this going to look like? And what are we going to be this year? And, I'm a big believer that those things will take care of themselves if everybody in our organization, starting with me all the way down to the student managers, are doing their job every single day with excellence. We got a weightlifting session that's going to start here in 3 minutes. And the goal of that weightlifting session is to be the greatest weightlifting session in the history of our program. And then as we turn the page to the next thing we do and the next thing we do and the next thing we do, that'll be our focus. And that's always been my way, right? I let the guys like you, right, make all the
But I don't
prognostication.
mean wins a lot, but what style of play? What will me and everyone else, what will we see in
Yeah, I
terms
mean, I
of the
like
way
to
you
think,
want to play?
well, first of all, I think, Skip Ross used to say a team usually takes on the personality of their coach. So you're going to see a high energy team, that plays hard. I like to think that our teams, our staff's teams, my teams, play with grit, play with tenacity, play with passion, play with fire. We're always going to play stinking hard. Our teams are usually, from an offensive standpoint, dynamic in terms of our pace, how we play. We push the ball, we play downhill. There's a lot of possessions in our game. We value ball movement, people movement. We value 3-point shooting. We're typically one of the, toward the tops of the country in 3-point volume rate, but we're also usually very, very good in offensive rebounding. So we go and pursue our own misses as well. On the defensive end, we're going to be a tough, nasty, tenacious, I like to think, man-to-man team predominantly.
Pat, I'm not putting you all on equal footing here, but in terms of, when I think of you and I think of Dan Hurley and I think of Mark Few in different ways. Now Mark's not as out there, passionate energy, but he's got great life balance. And that's the thread I see with the three of you. You and Dan, I think, obviously it's on your sleeve. You're out there, you're running around, you have passion. Life balance has been incredibly important to you, which I love and I admire. How do you balance, though,
Yeah.
everything you've done with your family to keep everyone locked in,
Yeah.
in terms of making sure you're present
Yeah.
and taking over a program where you've got to be present? How do you do the two?
Well, gosh darn, to even mention my name in any type of sentence or paragraph with those two guys who are future Hall of Famers is a little humbling. It's funny you mentioned Coach Hurley, who's obviously won back-to-back national championships. He is a huge Bengals fan, and I am a huge Bengals fan. I have no idea why he's a Bengals fan because he's not from Cincinnati. So every time I walk past him, we just have this thing. I don't even stop and talk to him because we don't know each other that well, but we just walk. Like if I see him in Rock Hill in a couple days or wherever we're going in Augusta or in Atlanta, we just say "Who Day" to each other and just keep walking. And then obviously Coach Few. So yeah, faith, family, and hoop. Faith, family, and hoop. Faith, family, and hoop. And I don't have the bandwidth between these ears to be able to focus and be passionate about a lot of other things, but man, I every single day I'm going to pour into those three things, and there's no such thing as true balance. There's not. Your professional life and your personal life have to kind of mix. Gosh, my son Johnny every time he's not in school or he's not doing something, he's in the practice facility or he's at practice and he's rebounding for guys and he's sitting in film sessions and tell me what I'm doing wrong on the ride home. So it's pretty cool. You know, I'm moving two teenage girls from Charleston here, so it'll be a little bit of an adjustment as they have kind of their friend groups all set there. So, you know, I pray every day that their transition will be smooth, and I know they're going to adjust and love this place. This is a special community. One thing that I've really found out is just how passionate people are about the city of Louisville, how much pride they have in this place. Obviously, for the Louisville Cardinals and the 22,000 at the Yum Center, but this community is very, very tight knit, and there's great pride in this place, man. I don't know if you've ever been to the Kentucky Derby, but that is Louisville's event.
Yeah,
One of
I have
the
not had
coolest
an
things,
invite yet.
one of the coolest things I've ever been to. So unbelievable city, and they've been crazy welcoming to me and to my family. And this is home now, and we're proud and we're blessed to be here.
Last two things for you. First, again, you're coming in at a pretty unique time because Mark Pope's coming in at Kentucky. The two programs have always been linked to some degree, obviously in the great Commonwealth there. You know, what are you looking forward to in this rivalry where you're both sort of fresh into this?
Well, rivalries are what makes college basketball great, man. It's what makes sports great. I mean, on a different scale, I grew up in Cincinnati, and there's a unbelievably bitter rivalry. I don't know if you want to say bitter because it's homes divided, kind of like it is with South Carolina and Clemson in the state of South Carolina. But Ohio State, Michigan. I'm from Ohio, Louisville, and Kentucky. Man, it's one of the greatest rivalries in our sport. This is a basketball mad state, basketball crazy state. I've learned more about bourbon since I've been here, more about horse racing and more about the Kentucky Louisville rivalry than anything since I've been here. I know, you know, that I know how bitter it is, and I know how important it is here, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. I want to not like Mark, but it's hard not to because he's a really good dude. You know what I mean? Like, he came up to me, introduced himself, we started talking, and I walked away. I was like, Louisville fans might not want me to say this, so I apologize. I'm like, that's a really good dude. But you know, listen, Skip Prosser and Bob Huggins had a very, very close relationship in one of the nastiest rivalries in the country was Xavier and Cincinnati. So I think there's a possibility to have honor among thieves. Maybe off the floor we can like each other and then try to tear each other's face off when we square up head to head.
Last thing, Pat. We're in summer here as we're talking. It just feels different because of the portal, NIL, everything. Another last year, the COVID year. Where do you think we are with summer basketball in 24, 25 and beyond?
Well, I mean, you mentioned how different our business is. I mean, the biggest seismic shifts in the history of college basketball has happened here over the last couple of years. And I think the key to all of that is be nimble and be willing to adjust and run toward change and not away from it. Because in every industry, major shifts happen. And
I guess one thing, Pat, I was thinking is that you want to be, it feels like you want to be with your team more in July than on the road, which used to be the reverse. You know, everyone was on the road the whole month, but now you gotta put your team together in July.
yeah.
I mean, that to me seems like the biggest difference. What about you?
Yeah, I think what I think I'm used to now, and I would think most coaches are used to, is the craziness and the ferocity of our responsibilities and our schedule and what we do doesn't stop. It doesn't. And you need to accept that and be okay with it. And it needs to be the new norm until changes happen in the calendar or things like that with the portal. And maybe it never can. That's just the new normal. Put a smile on your face and deal with it and adjust and adapt and just understand that's, you know, what do they say in The Godfather? This is the life we have chosen. It's kind of just how it is. But yeah, I mean, when you're on the road, that's really, really important. But gosh darn, you're thinking about getting back and being with your guys and coaching them up. And then the season, right? The season is hectic and it's pressure packed and it's nonstop and there's games and there's travel and there's academics. Boom, buzzer sounds, portal, boom, it goes into overdrive. There is no such thing as like, the season ended. Let's take back in the day, July was like on fire. July was nonstop on the road, but you had May where really nothing was going on. Every coach got married in May or in August, because May and August were just normal months where we could be normal people. That's not happening anymore. So welcome to the new age of collegiate athletics. I love it.
Well, get into that weight room and fire up those guys. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. See ya.